Welcome back to BLOCKTV, where it is time for Crypto Globe. That's when we take a trip around the world to hear about the latest developments in the industry. And luckily for me, every week to guide us through that tour is Ethan Pierce, director of the Paris-based CryptoAssets Institute, joining us today. Don't say it, Ethan. Let me guess. I know that corner. You're in Ohio.
Yes, that I am.
There you go. But first of all, great to have you. And let's start off with that giant tech company called Microsoft, who has teamed up with Engine, right? To offer crypto collectible rewards. What does that mean for us?
This is pretty cool. So, you know, large corporates that have, large platforms that have big user and especially developer communities are always trying to figure out ways to kind of get those communities more engaged and to showcase that kind of the power of those communities and how much people contribute to the success of those platforms. And in this case, what they've done is outside of the typical, you know, you earn kind of a recognition that you've contributed so much or whatever, but it's just like maybe just a little an image that you get on your profile or some kind of just a note somewhere that says this person is great. Well, they've gone a step further, and with Engine, they're making tokens that will instead of receiving a badge, you will receive a badger. The tokens are in the form of a little animal. Right. And the idea is whether or not you're engaging the community, you're writing content, you're representing at events, creating meetups, you're contributing code, whatever those things are, you can be nominated for and receive one of these tokens. And then that token itself is a non-fungible token that will be tradable. So outside of the fact that you earn these things and that they're going to be fairly rare in the sense that you have to be nominated for them, and some of them there's only going to be 100 of them released. So in and of itself, they potentially have that kind of value of people wanting to have them. But then the next step from that is because they're going to be NFTs tradable on Ethereum, you'll be able to potentially see value, monetary value in these things as time goes on and potentially want to collect the whole set or want to be seen for. So we'll see where exactly that goes in that idea. But we do see people going to extremes to get all of these kinds of recognitions within platforms, whether or not it's something like maybe a Pokemon Go or Harry Potter or Wizards Unite, you know, something along those lines, or whether or not we're seeing things in other games, whether it's digital games or things. We've already seen that people get very excited about that. If we're looking at brands, people are already very brand conscious and self-identify a lot with specific brands. So the ability to not only earn kind of rare recognition, but then the potential that recognition itself has a value that can be traded. I think that's pretty interesting. We'll see where that goes and how it scales out. But I think this is something that for pretty much all SaaS startups that have an engaged user or developer community could potentially leverage. And I think it's pretty cool to see where that might go.
And not only that, Microsoft being, you know, being Microsoft, at the end of the day, would you say, what does that do for the sphere when a tech giant as such goes down the route of tokenization, in a way? Yeah,
I think it's already a good sign. So they just recently partnered up with let's see, what's the name of the game? There's a game that they're working on that will have an NFT system inside as well. They, I think last month, announced that they were partnering with Eternity Ventures to accelerate blockchain startups out of Malta. So I think it's pretty clear that not only is Microsoft engaging the enterprise on one side with offerings, they're also engaging the actual community of blockchain developers and startups to kind of connect those as much as they can and to be a part of that process. So it seems like they're doing a lot in that space. We'll see where this goes, but I think that it's a good signal for NFTs in general to see something like this, and we'll see how that develops as it goes. I think it's some of these are already live. If you go to the address that they have for the assets, some of them have been out there for about a month already, and they'll start to be releasing them soon to people as they get nominated and approved.
Okay, now, as we said, the more the merrier. On a related note, as you noted to us, the Lithuanian central bank announces blockchain collector coins. What does that mean?
So this is interesting. It's from a couple different perspectives. I think Lithuania is, sometimes I refer to it as Estonia with bad marketing. in the sense that they're doing so much. I think Lithuania is one of the most forward-thinking administrations in Eastern Europe around blockchain and crypto assets. But I don't think that they have had the visibility that they deserve compared to some of its neighbors that have also been doing some really cool stuff. And so I think part of this is for them to continue to understand crypto assets and to be seen as a place where you can be working with tokenized securities and different things around the crypto economy inside of the EU with compliance. So I think that that's part of the reason they want to do this. And the next piece is just kind of around, they mentioned in one of their quotes, that they want to just encourage people who want to invest in coins and that historical activity that people seem to maybe are passing by a little bit in the digital age. So they're going to mint coins related to the active independence of Lithuania in February of 1918. So they're going to release 24,000 tokens that you can buy, and each of these tokens will provide you with one of six categories of the, each category is an area of activity that one of the 24 signatories of this active independence is a part of, so based on their activities. And so you have potentially, each token will be one of 24 different people in one of six categories. And then once you collect a token from each of the six categories, you can actually then trade that in for an actual physical silver coin it's a rectangle about the size of a credit card that will have a picture on the back of all of the signatories in kind of a digitized version, and then a quote on the front of that. And the idea is very simple. It's to encourage people to be investing into coins in a typical historical way, but to kind of gamify that and to bring that into the tokenized age where the tradability of the tokens, of the digital tokens themselves is there, so that if you only have one or two, you'd be able to exchange those potentially monetarily. It didn't really go into details exactly how that would work. And then once you've collected each of the six categories, you can convert that for this silver coin, which will have a monetary value of 19 euros and 18 cents to signify this year of independence of Lithuania, the active independence. So I think this is a pretty interesting idea. Again, seeing that the worlds collide of typical historical assets, physical assets, and their tokenization to provide whatever that might mean. In this case, gamification, kind of maybe trying to interest a younger generation in that activity, but also to, again, to kind of showcase Lithuania as a place where we can really be connecting assets to the crypto world and making that something that we can build business models around and connect with. So I think it's another interesting idea of kind of like the first one with Microsoft, things we already see people doing, but just taking those now into a tokenized space.
No, entirely, and I have to say, I'm being a quarter Lithuanian. That's actually, that gives me a little bit of pride.
Yeah.
No, that's it.
Cool.
It's a very interesting way to try and get people into, the sphere. Moving to the other side of the globe, South Korea, the government there seeks to tax crypto transactions as capital gains, which actually is a good thing, isn't it?
I'm not sure I would say that I'm not sure I'd agree that it's a good thing.
Look, taxes, no, I'm saying nobody likes taxes. I'm just saying, is that a recognition of it being a gain? And that's, in that respect, it's almost like normalizing.
Well, this continues, every week, every 2 or 3 weeks, there's another interesting piece of news out of South Korea around the crypto assets economy. So I think that if nothing else, this is some place where there is a lot of forward momentum. But as we've seen, they're very blockchain friendly, but historically not very crypto friendly. Now they're becoming a little more crypto neutral. So hopefully this will move towards crypto positive as we move further into the future. The issue I have with capital gains on any kind of gain in any kind of trading around crypto is it is extremely difficult for traders, even casual traders, to keep track of each transaction, because this isn't I guess it depends on how you're measuring it, but if you are every single trade, if that is a capital gains moment, then that becomes extremely complex, because you potentially you might have to put your fiat into an exchange in order to get some Bitcoin, in order to use that Bitcoin to then buy whatever token you're looking at to get into. And that creates two moments right there that potentially in some governments that you're having to account for both of those. Then you go inter-exchange. What happens if I've got certain tokens on one thing, on one exchange, and I transfer those to another exchange to then sell them in order to buy something else? Now we start having the differences between values of our assets on different exchanges. So I think that, I think this becomes very complex. I like what France has done here, which is to remove capital gains from the equation and simply say, whenever you take your crypto out of an exchange, whether it is to turn it into fiat, or it is to spend the crypto, either of those becomes an income tax moment. And that means we forget all of those inter-exchange kind of trading moments and where that might mean around capital gains. In this case, it's not real clear exactly where they're going to, if they're going to tax every single trade as a capital gains moment, and whether or not that's going to be, approached kind of in the same way as dealing with real estate or stocks, and how exactly are they going to approach capital gains on this? All they've simply said is that they want to push a bill forward that's in process right now to apply capital gains to crypto investments, and that there are other bills that are moving forward to kind of further define what crypto assets means in the South Korean economy. But regardless of where those goes, they're saying we will pass this bill to make crypto capital gains taxed. This will be passed within the next couple of months, and in theory should go into play within a year of that passage. I do think this is really good that they're at least moving forward and defining this so that we can be more clear and transparent with working with crypto assets in the Korean economy. I don't believe that capital gains and crypto go very well together. I think income tax makes a lot more sense, and is a lot easier to track these things. If you're not spending them or withdrawing them, then I think it just makes a lot more sense to let them ride and then tax people at usage. But then again, I'm also a kind of a flat sales tax person and that kind of a thing. So I kind of like the idea of being taxed on what we spend. But anyway, I think it's a lot more transparent for people who are doing lots of trading on lots of different exchanges across lots of different borders. We'll see where that go. That's where they want to go with this case. They would go, and we'll have to see how they get a hold of this trading.
How they get a hold of that and that. Not only that, though, but they also, parallel to that, they're trying to advance a bill aimed at increasing transparency of trading in the sphere. So those two seem like they should be going together in a way.
They do, yeah. and again, I take this as a positive thing, because at least they're moving forward in saying we're going to define how you can work with crypto assets. But they have clearly said that regardless of how this other bill is passed and how long it takes to get put into place and whatever, they will move forward on capital gains taxes on crypto. The pushback from people in the local ecosystem is it's fine if you want to talk about taxing, but if we aren't still clear on what you consider these assets to be and how we work with them, then taxing them is kind of the wrong thing to be doing first.
Or in other words, why
this is a good sign.
Why tax something? How can you tax something that you haven't regulated yet? One can argue entirely so.
Yeah, I think that's a very fair argument. In any case, it's good to see Korea becoming. In any case, these things will create a space where you can kind of have a better understanding, a better clarity, potentially transparency about where you can do what and how that impacts taxes or regulation or whatever. But I don't. So I think it's good because that's coming from a place where they haven't been very crypto friendly up until now.
Right.
At the same time, I don't think that capital gains is necessarily
the way to go.
Is the best way to go.
No, but
I think that we will get a lot more. I think that people will hide their crypto less, and we will find a lot more people being interested in trading and not giving up the interest in owning tokenized assets if we don't make it too complicated to track those taxable moments. I think that's a dangerous approach to this, depending on how they want to apply capital gains. But in any case, moving forward in Korea.
Moving forward, though, yes. But that's my favorite one now, because we're going back to Europe, and it's the Italian Copyright Authority. And Algorand developed blockchain ecosystem for copyright management. If anything needs to be on the blockchain, one could argue, it is copyrights now.
Well, it's one of the obvious ones. Digital rights management is one of the spaces like logistics and other things that just kind of makes sense. I think one of the main issues we might see with copyright is just if we're talking about songs, for example. Imagine all of the radio stations in the world playing a different song every 3 or 4 minutes. If we talk about a transaction level, that's a tremendous amount of data and a tremendous amount of transactions to be dealing with in terms of tracking songwriter and performer copyright. So I think that's, I think the issue is not that it doesn't seem obvious that we would want to be dealing with digital rights management in this way. I think the issue is how to, what platform will be able to sustain that kind of scale, whether we're talking about, songwriting, whether we're talking about film, any place that we're, if we're looking into intellectual property around patents, if we start tracking the usage of these things, potentially videos like this or articles that you've written for a blog or syndicated out through something like the AP, if we want to be tracking all that content, we start getting into a serious amount of transactions that becomes sort of an issue. So the Italian Society of Authors and Publishers has teamed up with Algorand. They had already been working for about a year or two on this idea, and have now chosen Algorand as their platform because they believe that this will allow them to have the scalability that they are looking for tracking copyright, at least for Italian content producers. And so, this is not, there's not a tremendous amount of detail to this, except to just highlight the fact that this is a national rights management agency that has pushed forward their blockchain strategy now into a more pragmatic, let's put this in place space, and has chosen a partner. They're, according to this rights agency, that they're just really wanting to look at a greater efficiency and transparency. If you've had anything to do with songwriting, rights management, or anything around online content, or you know how much you do not get credit for your work wandering around the world and being used in all kinds of ways that make other people money. So I think that content producers are very excited about the opportunity to have a more granular transparency to the usage of their content. So it's great to see an organization like this on a national level engaged with that. And then Silvio Micali, the founder of Algorand, also just was quoted about this, saying they're just really excited for the progress towards economic models that promote inclusiveness, transparency, and frictionless transactions. Very honored by the fact that they're joining up with this Italian agency to work on copyright digital rights management. So I think that's, again, another one of these very practical applications that has nothing to do with crypto in the sense of currencies. Doesn't have anything to do with physical assets per se, but very much is a space where there is a lot of money in play in a system that is very inefficient and rather broken, that especially for smaller content producers that could make a lot more money from the content that they've produced, but are kind of invisible in the current rights management systems that exist. So this is pretty good news, and I think it'd be exciting when we hear ASCAP and BMI and others that roll out similar systems to start dealing with digital rights on a more global level.
Amen to that, because I think, as you mentioned, just to conclude, that it may not deal with, cryptocurrencies, but intellectual property and creative property is just as, if not sometimes more important. One can argue, and it's a great use case for apropos copyrights and blockchain. Ethan Pierce, I can't thank you enough, this time coming up from Ohio on the holiday season and enlightening us on all these things moving forward in the sphere. Not only that, please have a happy holiday season.
You as well, thanks.
Thank you, Ethan.
For more news and updates, follow us on Twitter.